Alright, so today we've got a bit of a different video. Finally, after 3.5 years, I'm in. I got early access to the new hero. Not only to the new hero, but basically the update coming to the game tomorrow on August 6th. So shout out to Yubi for letting me check things out early. Today, I just want to talk about a few things. This is not a full recap video. I'm not going to go over every single little thing that comes in the update, but just a few things that I noticed or wanted to talk about or show you guys now that I can. There isn't a whole lot that I really want to talk about, as I want to play it live against a lot of different people first, and I'll try my best not to repeat things that I've said in previous videos, of course. And I should mention again that this is an early access build. Real quick, I apologize if you hear any noise in the background. My neighbor is playing that meme song Bakamatai on full blast, and they've been going at it strong for much longer than I thought they would. Now, with that being said, as always, if you do watch these videos somewhat regularly, I would really appreciate it if you sub to the channel, as it really helps me out. Now let's not waste any more time and get right into it. Alright, before I start talking about Warmonger, I do want to quickly show off their finishers, as I promised you guys on stream that I do that first after the whole situation. You guys know what I'm talking about. So here are the Warmonger ones and the one that'll be available for everyone to buy. So here they are really fast. I actually really like these, especially Warmonger's first three. I also like the one that'll be available to everyone. Now onto the Warmonger. They're a good hero, right? In this early access, I didn't really see any new animations or anything. I saw and used everything we saw in the showcase, which, as I said before, is fine. I'm okay with what we've got, and now that the hero is in my hands and I finally get to use them, I think that they're fine. There isn't a new crazy mechanic, they're not reinventing the game with their moveset or anything, but it does feel good. I was initially worried that they would feel light or loose after taking a look at what we saw in a Tyrant's test, but when you're behind Warmonger and you get to see and hear and control them, they do feel weighty for the most part. There are a few finishers that look a little light, specifically the last one. Sometimes she can look a little awkward. They'll pop into place at times, and some of their movements may look like they're missing something, but for the most part, they look good. I don't really notice the similarities between them and others while using them, mainly because I'm behind them and not staring at them, and I'm also not staring at every single movement they're doing, but if you're looking for them, they're still here. I feel like this hero will do well. I think they're really easy to use. You don't have to press a lot of buttons, you don't have to do a lot of things, and they've got a lot of tools. Enhanced lights, a roll catcher, undodgeable. They've got armor, an unblockable attack, a parry counter, access to bleed, a really good feintable bash. The bash light actually leaves Warmonger at frame advantage, meaning that after Warmonger lands that attack, they get to go back on the offensive. So if your opponent wanted to throw a light right after they got hit by the bash light, you can interrupt them with a light of your own. Also, the feint window on the bash is really large. I didn't get to go up against anyone, so I only got to see it from my perspective, but you can feint the bash really far into the animation. Now that I've used them, I think my rep 10 grind will be really smooth, because even though they're pretty straightforward, I really like the feeling of their moveset. I didn't really feel limited. I was fighting bots, so after fighting against real players, I may feel a bit different, but I think Warmonger will be just fine. But yeah, I think from a fight perspective, there is fun to be had with Warmonger. Now, the feats, on the other hand, are what they are. Again, what we saw in the reveal is what we're seeing here. and it does what I expected it to do. It turns out it does work on pikemen as well as commander himself for those who play breach. So Warmonger is another hero, or a hero, that has another way to heal in the mode without needing to land a finisher or go to a healing point. As expected, their corruption can clear the minion lane in seconds, and you get your tier 1 pretty early on, and I can't wait to see what happens tomorrow when there are like 5 or 6 Warmongers per game. The cooldown on the tier 1 is pretty quick, so you'll be able to pop it a few times per game, so I expect to see a whole lot of corruption for a while, which will just break up fights and clear mid. I already talked about it a whole lot in my last video, and I don't really have anything different to say, so if you want my deeper thoughts on that, you can go check that video out. Now, the Warmonger's other feats are all over the place. In the tier 1 slot, their other feats are Rush, which is alright, and Conqueror. I don't see anyone using either one of those over Corruption Blade. In the tier 2, they've got Arrow Strike and Flesh Wound. Again, I don't see anyone using those over Elixir of Corruption. In tier 3, they've got Punch Through and Tough as Nails, which are nice, but I'd rather have Power of Corruption here. And then in tier 4, they've got Arrow Storm and Auto Revive, and I don't see anyone using those over Corruption Blast. Next up, really fast, I want to look at a few other heroes. So UB did let us know that they were speeding up Highlander lights, slowing down Orochi chain lights, and giving Orochi an unblockable along with the core combat update. Highlander's lights look really fast now. They will land more often with the core combat update. As with everything that is sped up, it makes the animation look a little silly, but I'll accept that trade-off for the time being. Orochi's top unblockable looks pretty good animation wise. Sometimes it does start abruptly and snap into place, but for the most part it looks good. We are going to be seeing this unblockable a lot since Orochi can access it in a few ways. We're all aware this doesn't fix Orochi outright, and we all know how to deal with an unblockable by now, but it is something and it has its uses. Now I'm just waiting for an Orochi to come up to me, call a timeout with Ki, and throw them at me while I'm out of stamina. One more hero I want to take a quick look at is Arimusha. So Arimusha had his heavy slowed down, and I don't have anything to say about the damage or anything like that just yet, but it feels really slow, like each sword weighs 30 pounds. At first glance, I can see why they slowed down the top heavy, but the side heavies are lost on me. I'm going to wait until the patch notes release before I say anything, but I did want to point this out that Arimusha is moving in slow motion. Okay, now for the core combat update really fast. I don't really have too much to add here. For what it is, it feels good. I really like the stamina changes, or more so the removal of those penalties, and I feel as though I can fight more comfortably now. Out of all the changes in this update, the stamina ones are probably my favorite, just because I'm someone who likes to attack a lot and always end up out of stamina a whole lot from doing so, or at least used to, as that change basically remedies that. Now, the damage changes, on the other hand, are a little different than what I expected. I thought after we tested them all out and gave our feedback, things were going to get a bit better, and in some places they did, but just like with the first test, there are a few damage numbers that don't really make sense to me. A while ago, back when we first found out that these changes were even a thing, I was under the impression that we'd generally be seeing damage get lowered across the board. And in some cases that is true. The light damage is lowered and some heavy damage is lowered as well, along with zones and deflects and whatnot. But in some places the damage has been buffed. Yorm now has higher damage on his heavies. Hammer Slam has been dropped to 40 though. Janhu unblockable heavies were improved to 38 damage. Centurion's charged unblockable pin does 40 damage now for some reason, so if you have Haymaker and you're near a wall, you'll be dealing 55 damage. And at first it sounded as though they wanted to normalize heavy damage and then slightly lower it from there, but there are still plenty of attacks that do well over 35 damage. Granted, they are generally later in chains, and it seems as though they still want chain offense to be a thing that players use more often. I'm alright with most of the damage values I saw. I would still like to see some heavy damage lowered across the board and also see a few more tweaks. For example, Lawbringer's light parry punish does less damage than his heavy parry punish if available, and I want to see things like that worked on. Anyways, that's basically all I wanted to talk about in this video. There are a few more things in this update, like the event pass, the new effect, and a few other things I'll go over at another time, probably a little later on today. I have to keep reminding myself that this is an update, it's not a brand new season, so I shouldn't expect things like maps or anything like that. I do want to know what you guys think, so be sure to talk to me down in the comments about anything we talked about in this video. And as always, if you like the video, feel free to leave a like and sub if you're new, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video.